What's up, everybody, and welcome to Cryptocopia's weekly AMA live stream. Cryptocopia is a community focusing on all things cryptocurrency. It's perfect for seasoned vets and for beginners who are new to the space. I'm your host, Michael Kripkala. You can find me in Discord or on Twitter at Mike Spellcheck. And don't forget to follow Three-Eyed Raven and Kilone on Twitter while you're on there, because they were a huge part of bringing together our guest in Cryptocopia today. Speaking of our guest, we're joined today by none other than CEO and founder of Stratis, Chris True. So for those of you who don't know about Stratis, it's a blockchain network and smart contract platform that's built to make it easy for enterprises to create trustless technology. Stratis is a Microsoft Silver partner. They have a full node available for download on the Azure Marketplace. And the project launched way back in August of 2016. So Chris and his team they're battle-tested veterans of the cryptocurrency space. Without further ado, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great. Wanted to thank you again for joining us. Why don't we just get right into it? Because you guys have a lot happening and there's a lot to ask you about. Could you tell us just a little bit about your background and take us through, the early days of creating the Stratis network?
Yeah, so myself, I have a background in IT. I worked as a technical architect for 10 years before I got into the blockchain space. Before I started Stratis, I self-taught myself C#, and as part of that journey and becoming a developer, it started to make me look at the world slightly differently. I started to see business opportunities all over the place for a developer, and I just so happened to stumble on Bitcoin at the time, and it wasn't long before I could see this huge gap in the market in between the blockchain and C# development, and more specifically corporate development. So we kind of started the project to fill that void, and it has taken a long time for us to actually get our product out, but it is now out, and we feel that we have a very, very competitive offering.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you and everybody else, because this is complicated technology, and it's it's a really fascinating mix of economics and network architecture and computing, but distributed computing, right?
Yeah.
So could you tell us just a little bit about what blockchain as a service means? Because Stratis is a blockchain as a service offering, and how would one of your clients go about using it for their application?
Yeah, so blockchain as a service, like software as a service, is all about making it easier for the person to access the service. So bundling it up into a package that they either pay monthly for or yearly for. So it has a very simple licensing model, and it allows a company to come along and utilize our blockchain technology without the huge learning curve involved. I mean, I wouldn't say that there's no learning curve involved, but our platform and what we've developed, our modular architecture, our SDKs, our APIs, most definitely make it easier for C# developers that want to get into the blockchain space.
Okay. And that's actually a really good transition. I know that your background is developing on C#, but why did you choose to build a product specifically for enterprises, specifically using C#?
Yeah, because during my work in IT, I worked at several large financial organizations in the UK. And what would actually often happen is they'd have a whole floor of just C# developers. I mean, you'd walk into these rooms with 500 developers on the floor and you'd say, what do those guys do? And they'd be C# developers. So from the inside, I knew that pretty much every large corporate organization in the UK either has some C# developers in-house, or they have .NET C# line of business applications. So our thought process was, if we build this platform up from the ground up in C# and offer all of these SDKs and APIs, it's going to be far easier to integrate the blockchain into those line of business applications than if it was in, say, another language. And it also, like I said, reduces the learning curve for those C# developers. I mean, a perfect example is our smart contracts infrastructure. It's written from the ground up in C#. So there's a few projects out there that allow you to write smart contracts in C#, but what actually happens is they're actually converted into another format to be executed. Whereas with our smart contracts, they're actually executed as C#. But not only that, the underlying architecture is all C#. So if you're, for instance, a developer and you don't understand why an API is giving you a certain response, you can actually drill into the code and see exactly what's happening in the background, and that's been a huge problem historically with Bitcoin, in that it's in C++, and you have these brilliant JavaScript SDKs and things for Bitcoin. But what happens is, once you go that level below and you hit the C++, some developers just can't understand what's going on under the hood. That was one of the things that we stress, in that we want C# developers to be able to drill all the way down the stack.
Okay. And then if you were to compare that to Ethereum as an example, where they're building their own language, I believe Solidity is JavaScript based. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a developer myself, but you have, I'm sure, a bunch of pros and cons going that route as well.
Yeah. I mean, it comes obviously with various pitfalls, developing a smart contract VM on an existing language like this. So what we've done is we haven't actually created a virtual machine like Ethereum have a virtual machine. We actually use the .NET CLR to execute the code, which is brilliant, because the code that you develop is the code that's being executed, but that also introduces security risks, And this is why one of the main features of our smart contracts is what we call smart contract whitelisting. So out of the box, you won't be able to write a smart contract and actually execute on the network. There's a process that you have to go through. So once you've created your smart contract, you will submit that smart contract for approval, and then there'll be various Stratis developers, external consultancies that actually do a whole peer review of this smart contract. And then you'll see lots of approvals coming in from all of these approvers. It's then a case of actually put contracts out to the network, and all of the nodes on the network must vote to actually accept that smart contract into the system. So what we're basically doing is we're allowing node operators to decide what's executed on their machine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's really interesting. So I know the community between Cryptocopia and between the greater, crypto community, on Twitter, specifically the Stratis community, has a lot of questions for you. Yeah. What we're going to do is we usually do a 50-50 split of questions, from me for these AMAs, and then from the community. Today, we're actually going to, I'll get out of your way pretty early, and I'll start asking questions from Twitter and from Cryptocopia. So, everybody, we definitely want to hear your questions. Make sure you're pretty active in the AMA thread. But if you don't hear any questions answered, if we're not able to get to all of them, because it was amazing how much you wanted to know. Stratis team is going to be trying to answer everything, within due time.
Yeah, what I will say, just to add to that, is if your question is not answered, then please join our Discord and ask. I'm always available and I'm constantly answering questions. So if you have a question and one of the guys on the Discord can't answer it, then I will jump in and answer it myself.
Awesome. So while we're talking about C#, that's a pretty good transition to the Microsoft partnership that I wanted to ask you about. So as far as I know, Stratis is the first blockchain network to actually become a certified Microsoft partner. And I just wanted to ask, what that partnership has been like so far, what kind of resources and marketing support has actually been offered to your team with that silver certification.
Yeah, it's really been brilliant. I mean, this whole project is targeted at Microsoft technologies. I mean, .NET Core allows our code to run on OS X and Linux, but we're building most of our tech out on Azure and utilizing their offering, So for probably 2 years, we didn't receive much support from Microsoft, So we just had to sort of develop in quiet. But as we had more offerings on the Azure marketplace, as we got a deeper integration into Microsoft, it was just a natural evolution for us to come together. If I just talk a bit about the silver ISV status that we have, because there was a bit of controversy when we came out with that, with people saying that you could just spend $3,000 and automatically get that partnership. That's not the case. There's several paths that you can go down, but the one that we went down is you actually have to have a web app offering on the Azure marketplace. And we were the first to have a blockchain-based web app offering on the Azure marketplace. And that's why we received that silver, ISV competency.
Okay.
But yeah, the relationship's been brilliant. They've been helping us a great deal. We have many calls with them. They've been helping us with our marketing collateral. Microsoft have a load of internal marketing collateral. So if you were to contact them about blockchain solutions in a specific geographic, they'd be giving you information about Stratis, and this all comes from this collection of marketing collateral that they have. We're actively working towards Gold Partnership, because Gold Partnership gives you a lot more benefits. It also gives you, apologies, it also gives you more access to Microsoft customers, and that is exactly what we want. When we first started this project, we had the vision that if we're deeply integrated with Microsoft and we actually do what we say, then it will be a case of Microsoft taking us out to their customers. You know, we're already seeing that happening.
Could you talk a little bit about like what that go-to-market strategy with Microsoft's customers looks like? Or I'm assuming there are probably some some confidentiality agreements there.
There are, yeah. But I mean, I can share some. So in terms of the go-to-market strategy, Microsoft really leaves it up to you to come up with your own go-to-market strategy. They're not going to hand you a book that says this is how you go to market, but what they do along the way is they help to facilitate you. So like I said, they'll help you create top-level marketing material, enterprise targeted marketing material with their guys internally, all in sort of Microsoft templates. So it looks very cool. We can't actually share it externally, but it does look very cool, yeah.
Okay. And are there any Microsoft clients that you can, talk about that you're currently exploring conversations with, or is that under wraps for right now?
Not at this time, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So why don't we pivot a little bit? So obviously, everyone's aware of the bear market that we're in right now. It's no surprise that, as we've watched the news, we've seen consensus laying off employees or project shuttering every now and then, as their treasuries run out. So I was curious, as a company who's been active in crypto for almost 3 years now, as you guys are veterans of the space, how do you sustain development and keep rolling out these releases while protecting your company from the same fate?
I actually spoke with someone about this the other day, and so we only raised $600,000 during our ICO, which was a very small amount of money. I mean, the projects that raised either side of us was the Waves platform and Lisk, 30,000 Bitcoin, 15,000 Bitcoin for Lisk, and we raised 915. So from the very first day, we were at a disadvantage, and we had to be very, very careful with our funds. So there was no going out and buying big houses, no going out and buying Lambos. All we could do was focus on delivering the product, But one of the real benefits that we got is we weren't able to pay huge salaries. So what actually happened, we only attracted guys that just really wanted to work at Stratis. And what that's proven is they were developers, and most of the guys are still here now, and still not earning huge salaries and still completely dedicated to the cause. So I think a mixture of that and also being cautious with funds. We wanted to be able to go for 3 years to 5 years. So we couldn't just all of a sudden on day one hire 20 developers. So we scaled up the business very slowly. And what that allowed us to do is be very, very efficient with our developers. We don't sort of have anyone who sits there twiddling their thumbs for a few hours a day. It is literally everyone is flat out constantly.
Mm-hmm. But you also have a group of developers that really buy into the vision.
Most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely. Everyone that works at Stratis completely, they're there for that reason, not for financial reasons.
Okay. That's amazing. It's the exciting part about what we're all doing, right? It's a very deep vision, right? It's kind of a philosophy. It's a social movement in some ways.
Most definitely. Yeah.
In a way, you can compare it to the open source sort of ideology, right? Which is a real thing.
Most definitely.
So why don't we talk just briefly about, because we're going to switch to questions in about 5 minutes, but can you tell us a little bit about the side chains that are coming to Stratis? I know there was a, announcement just recently, either at the beginning of this week or last week.
Yeah.
So could you tell us about how you're planning on rolling out that product and what the extra functionality we can expect to see from side chains on Stratis?
Yeah, so we actually rolled out our sidechains at the end of last year, so December 2018. It's been in the testing phase for the last couple of months, but over the next sort of 2 months, we're going to be rolling out the sort of production system. Right now, all of the nodes are operated by Stratis as a company. I don't need to tell anyone why that's not a good idea for the space that we're in. You're completely trusting us right now. And that was absolutely fine while it was just in testing and we needed to constantly roll out these updates. But now, in order for us to release smart contracts, we need a somewhat decentralized environment. And that's why in the next 2 months, we're going to be rolling out what we're calling masternodes, which are federated nodes on the sidechain, which will allow strat holders to actually secure the sidechain. But in terms of what sidechains offer from a functionality perspective, it's a scaling solution. So, for instance, all of our smart contracts will run in a sidechain. So if somebody wants to interact with a smart contract, they only have to download the full node for that sidechain and download the sidechain's blockchain instead of having to download the whole main chain, And there's various other benefits in that. We can effectively blow away side chains and restart them and do all sorts of other cool things around scaling. It also gives you some security, and you can have features and solutions running inside the side chain, and they don't actually affect the main chain. So if a side chain was to experience issues, it wouldn't actually affect the main chain. So it gives you that isolation. So what we're going to end up having effectively in the end is the Stratis main chain, and then various side chains off of it actually providing the core functionality for the platform. So if you want to interact with a specific part of the Stratis blockchain, you only have to connect to that side chain rather than one big chain with all of those features in.
Okay. Now, I would imagine that there are some decentralization benefits that you get when you have, the ability for users to only rely on the side chain and not have to download the full main chain, because they can, more easily work with a light client.
Yeah, so our side chains are not completely decentralized at the moment. We are actually working on a fully decentralized solution. But as I said, it's taken us such a long time to get this product ready for market that we've had to find stopgaps on some of our solutions. Instead of going straight to the utopia solution, we've had to sort of find an acceptable medium, and that's sort of where we're at with sidechains, in that it's not completely centralized, but it's also not completely decentralized. And some people could find arguments against,
Okay. So you're obviously a very technically savvy founder and public-facing CEO. I mean, you talked about
your. Say that.
More so than me, at least. If I were looking at a bundle of code, I wouldn't know where to start. But if you were to just tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like, I mean, are you really focused under the hood of what the technology looks like? Are you fielding, high-level calls with your developers, but also, looking at the marketing side of things? Like, what's your day-to-day look like?
So it's a real mixture. I normally start off my day by checking my emails, seeing if I have any important emails coming through, just checking what meetings I have throughout the day. And then I'll usually start by having calls with all of my executive teams from the various different areas to catch up with them and make sure everything's going as it should be expected. Next, I'll speak with our project managers to find out that the projects are on schedule and that all of the tasks are being completed as they should. And I quite often have technical calls with our technical architects, because although I'm CEO, I still like to be very much involved in the technical side of things, more so around the architecture side of it, so the planning and the design. And I'm not saying that I design these solutions, but I'm very good at asking questions and getting information out of people and building a picture,
Sure. And I want to pivot a little bit because I know we've been talking a lot about like the broader team, and I was curious because outside of the core team in Stratis, there's obviously a very vibrant community. And
Yeah.
I noticed that last week there was actually this subreddit within the our Stratis platform sub called State of the Stratis Platform, where the community was airing some of their thoughts and asking questions about the direction for 2019. In particular, there were some prominent community leaders that were describing what they saw as a lack of transparency coming from core Stratis. I was just hoping you could share with us a little bit of your thoughts about that thread in particular, and what the role of community members play in the Stratis ecosystem, but also really the level of engagement that the core team for Stratis is responsible for showing that wider community.
Yeah, so one of our main sort of ingredients for our success is our community. They're very passionate, and that's why we love them so much. They've supported, a lot of them have supported us from the very early days, and they've supported us for quite a long time. While we've been building up this journey. But certainly, I think that in the very beginning, we probably were one of the most visible projects. We gave our community the most visibility. I would be on Discord all day long, or sorry, Slack at the time, talking with the community all day long. But we just got to a point where that just wasn't sustainable anymore. You get to a point where you just have to stop talking and you actually have to do some work. And that was a situation we got to, in that. From my perspective, as far as I'm concerned, everyone would like us to get the technology out. People just want us to have the products out. They want us to have the features out. So the utility is there on the blockchain, So that was very much the focus. So I was not on Slack as much, and the core team were not as visible as they once was, But that's something that has certainly improved over the last couple of months. And myself, I've been active on Discord again, on Telegram, and that's something that we want to do moving forward. More of these AMAs as well. We want to get that communication channel open back up with the community. So I would definitely agree with the points that they made. And we don't claim to be perfect at the end of the day. We've been doing this for nearly 3 years, and I'm still learning every day, So it's just a case of correcting these issues, and working with the community, providing that visibility.
Sure. No, that's very fair. And actually, community, we are going to pitch it to them. We're going to open up the floor. So how this is going to work is I will switch between some questions submitted via Twitter and submitted via Discord. But again, I mean, you talk about the vibrant group of, the vibrant following that you have behind the Stratis platform. It's very, very clear, because so far this is our widest reaching, and we've seen the most interest in this AMA and the most passion from everybody involved. So why don't we, pass the torch, to make a joke about that lightning thing. So the first one's coming from MVD Dutch on Twitter. They are wondering if Stratis is going to be able to communicate with other languages in C#, if there's any kind of interoperability that we're going to see there.
Yeah, so we will be creating SDKs for some of the other main languages, such as JavaScript. So JavaScript developers will actually be able to interact with the Stratis platform.
Okay.
Nice.
Awesome.
So yes, the answer is yes.
I love it. Next up, we got CryptoVillain _. They're asking, what are you planning to do marketing wise to attract more business?
Yeah, so Mark, from that thread on Reddit, you'll see that marketing was one of the concerns raised by the community, and we will hold our hands up in that our marketing has not been on the same level as some of our competitors. But if you look at the budgets between the two, if we would have spent the same amount of on marketing as our competitors did in our first year, there'd be no Stratis right now. That's for sure. It comes down to budget, what we're actually able to spend on marketing. Up until now, to people, the gap's been filled by our community. A perfect example is if you look at their number of followers on Twitter, they're exactly the same as ours, but they've probably had a multi-million-pound budget on social media marketing, whereas we've spent zero, and the community filled that gap, you know. But the trouble is the community can't fill the gap on the business side of things, you know. So there's no getting away from the spend on going to market and bringing new businesses in. So this year we've got a whole strategy around our go-to-marketing. One of the prongs of attacks is working with the channel. So consultancy companies that don't necessarily have an internal blockchain practice, but they have all of these customers that are asking about blockchain services. So it makes sense for them to partner with a company like Stratis that has the platform, that has the expertise, that has the enterprise experience even before blockchain, that can come in and work with them and deliver solutions, sometimes white label. So we may come in as the consultancy company, you know, but that's going to be one of our main roads in. And we're already speaking with several large global players in the consultancy world, you know.
Okay. I mean, speaking of, you know, the fundraising, like I still can't get over the $4 billion that US raised.
Yeah.
So completely understood there. Let's go back to Twitter again. So actually, we had two pretty similar, you know, questions from JTechCZ and also from Johnny Tom 17, and they were both wondering what the biggest advantage of the Stratis platform was compared to the competition. You know, how you guys differentiated from projects like Waves, from Ardor, and some other projects like that.
Yeah, so for a company that has C# developers or has C# line of business applications, it's going to be the C# element in that their developers don't need to learn a new language in order to interact with this blockchain system. If they know C#, it's going to reduce that learning curve substantially. From a business perspective, what we've seen companies most interested in has been the fact that we have Stratis Consultancy. So we don't just have this platform, this development platform, we're a consultancy company. And so it's not just a case of us giving you this blockchain platform and saying, there you go off and use it. You can actually engage with Stratis Consultancy. We can come in, do an analysis, assessment, design, implementation, manage support contracts, SLAs, all of those types of things that any business any medium to large enterprise company is going to require, you know, and that is definitely one of our main selling points, in that if you're a company interested in our solutions, on the second or third meeting, I'll have our lead smart contract architect in the meeting, and you just can't get that from some of these other blockchain projects, you know. One of the benefits of us still being rather small.
Sure. Or nimble.
Yeah.
Let's switch it up and jump from Twitter over to the Discord channel. Cryptocopia is wondering specifically, let's see, we got Zomerte. I think they're from the Netherlands, not 100% sure. But anyway, they're wondering what your plans are for the Stratis Academy. What's the involvement looking like with C# Corner? And, you know, how are you guys gathering to learn about the platform?
Yeah, so one of the main things with this platform is we need the developer adoption, you know. So we created which is a learning area for C# developers to come in and learn the blockchain. So it's just going to be a case of us building out the academy. We're working on some video courses so people can digest the information better. We're obviously still working with C# Corner, and the sort of uptake from that community has been brilliant. And we actually have a dedicated employee at Stratis now who's just going to be working on this whole developer adoption piece. So going out to the .NET user groups around the world, hosting our own events for .NET developers to come down and learn about the technology and to get an introduction to the blockchain, and also hackathons as well. We're going to be doing a lot of hackathons. So you should definitely see a big uptake on our work around developer adoption. Up until now, we've just been so busy with developing this core product that we haven't really had a chance to sort of assign resources to anything else, really, you know. But we're at a point now where we're just working on stability really more than anything. So we have more time and we have more resources available to work on these type of peripheral things.
Mm-hmm. You were talking a little bit about the different communities. I mean, worldwide that you're planning on engaging, and personally, at least, that's my favorite thing about all these projects that we're talking to. And the access that Stratis, and really everybody else has to a global talent pool. I'm sure that presents challenges, but at the same time, that gives you access to anybody who can develop a smart contract.
Most definitely, yeah. We've got guys that work in Japan, Australia, all four corners of the globe, And in a normal company, it would be a case of, are you collaborating correctly? Are you efficient enough? Not being in the same office, But certainly in this space, it doesn't affect us at all.
Okay. All right. Next up, we've got Bill Ryan asking, so a little bit of context. You've mentioned in the past, Chris, that upcoming masternodes will not be eligible for staking rewards. So Bill said he understands that masternodes will be collecting fees, which is great, but other masternodes generally return both fees and staking or proof of work block rewards. And that makes them, to be honest, more appealing, considering that the Cirrus network in particular may take a little time to gain enough fees to make it appealing to run a node. Is there not a way to have those locked up, 10K or 50K collateral, to have that still eligible to receive staking rewards for Stratis? Or is that something that might change in the future?
So it's actually already changed. Your wish has been answered. So we announced this last week, and we actually put out a blog post today to say that after receiving feedback from the community, we're actually going to change the architecture slightly, and that the collateral requirement will be on the main chain and you will be able to stake with those coins. And the reason for that is, like he said, in the early days, there's not going to be a huge amount of smart contract execution. So nodes are not going to be earning huge fees. So that's why we wanted to sort of bootstrap the network with staking, So to answer the question, you will be able to stake with your 10K or 50K collateral requirement. And I actually remember reading that question. So you actually played a part, Bill, right?
Shout out to Bill. Next up, Ordinemo, again from the Cryptocopia Discord, is asking what killer features of Stratis today, and not just today, but in 3 years, are ahead of the competition, and how does Stratis intend to open up technology to the community and to researchers so that it can be continuously improved on?
So in terms of killer features, I would say our killer features are sidechains and smart contracts. We do have other features, but from my perspective, not so much from my perspective, but from a community perspective and a strat holder perspective, the best features are features that require strats. Either strats are consumed or strats have to be locked up to provide a certain piece of functionality on the blockchain, And smart contracts, sidechains is exactly what that does. In terms of how we're still going to be competitive in the future, as I said earlier, working on a completely decentralized two-way pegged sidechain solution. So at this moment in time, nobody's actually delivered a fully decentralized two-way peg that I'm aware of. I may be wrong on that, but that is definitely going to put us in a position in that we're one of the most sort of competitive offerings around sidechains. And then smart contracts, the fact that our smart contracts are written in C#, executed by the .NET CLR, puts us at an advantage and very different from the likes of Ethereum and Neo. We're actually one of the first projects to actually do smart contracts for a way to Ethereum, and that is our competitive advantage. It comes with a lot of pros, some cons, more pros, definitely.
I see. Let's switch back to Twitter, and all right, Alice D Zuku 91 asking what will be the main use case for the Strat token outside of masternodes.
I wouldn't say that there will be one specific use case. There's going to be many use cases built on top of the Stratis platform. I mean, with smart contracts, you're only really limited by what you can think up, So there's going to be many, many different use cases that smart contracts are created for. But we're going to be rolling out many different features on the Stratis blockchain payment gateways, our identity management solution, privacy solutions, additional scalability solutions.
That actually ties in really, really well with our next question. So I noticed that the plan is for at the end of Q1 for an update to the Breeze wallet and Tumblebit to be released. And correct me if I'm wrong there, but Chimera_crypto is asking what the product roadmap looks like for 2019 into 2020.
Yeah, so historically we've released regular roadmaps to inform the community of what we're going to be working on for the next couple of quarters. But now we're in a very awkward period where we're just working, so the goal is to get out the next version of the full node, sidechains, and smart contracts. And then we'll actually put out a roadmap, because we're going to be working on some totally new things that have not even been mentioned up until now, and these are exciting things that we want to inform the community about, but we need to sort of get to the next hurdle before we do that, because what we don't want to do is put out a roadmap and then not meet those deadlines,
Yeah.
Which is far worse than actually not putting out a roadmap.
That makes complete sense. Next, Andy Sison. I hope I said that right. Let me know if I'm wrong. They're wondering, where do you expect the Stratis platform to be in 5 years?
In 5 years, I'd expect us to be a major player in not only the sort of open public blockchain space like your Bitcoins and your Ethereums, but also competing with the likes of IBM on the DLT side of things. I'd hope that we've got hundreds of developers internally by then, and thousands of contributors, contracts, all extending and developing on top of the functionality of the Stratis platform.
And I know 5 in crypto time is, an eternity and a half. So thanks for your answer there.
All of our tech will still be open source. All of our tech will always be licensed under MIT, and we'll always be working to decentralized solutions.
Let's switch it up. Go back to the Cord. Smargulge is asking. So Chris, you mentioned that you're in talks with a big company that's considering using Breeze privacy protocol for their business. So they're not specifically asking about the company name. They're just curious what Breeze might be used and what the possibilities and use cases of the protocol are, other than tumbling coins. People don't know a whole lot about that side of the tech, so it'd be great if you could just elaborate a little bit on what that could look like.
Yeah. So they have some specific use cases that require privacy. So they need participants to be able to send coins or tokens between without actually knowing who that participant is, and that is literally why they were looking at the Tumblebit technology, and the fact that it's developed in C# and our whole platform's .NET was one of the main selling points. And the reason why they did us, to be honest, we get a lot of requests from businesses, and when we actually have our first initial meetings with them, and we ask them, why did you contact Stratis? A lot of times it's because of the whole C# and .NET element. So that's definitely been validated by businesses, because when we first developed this platform, although I came from an enterprise background and we'd spoken with several customers, we wasn't 100% sure if people actually wanted this. You can't actually be sure until you actually get on the ground and go out there and offer it to businesses, and it's been completely validated.
Mm-hmm. And that it's a lot easier to build a minimum viable product when you're building an app, a standalone app in the iTunes store, or maybe a pretty straightforward website, not too many pages to it. But when you're building decentralized architecture, I'm sure it probably takes a little bit more time to really validate and know for sure that there is a real use case for what you're building.
You really need to know what you're doing. That's one of the keys that we try to push. We've seen projects fork our code base and make a one-line change. And when our developers have actually looked at it, that one-line change will actually break the blockchain in future, or it may cause them problems that they actually can't foresee. So what I would say is, if you're making changes to full node or to any blockchain, know exactly what your chain implications are of that, because we see a lot of projects making that actually understanding the implications, you know, and we only know this.
I'm sure you've seen a lot.
We have, yeah, most definitely.
Next up, Yellow asking if you have any plans to deploy a more decentralized network through the increase of full nodes worldwide, and if yes, how would that be done? You know, if you could speak to what the protocol changes might look like.
So, I mean, we can make changes, technical changes, code changes to increase the decentralization, but we actually had a call about this today. It's notification. So we have a huge amount of strats that are dropped up in ledger wallets or sat on exchanges and not actually staking, you know. So as part of this rollout of our sidechain, encouraging people to actually staking, you know, so that will improve not only the security of the network, but because we have more nodes, it will increase the decentralization. So that's definitely one of our strategies to increase the decentralization of the Stratis chain.
All right, great. One more from Cryptocopia, and then let's switch it back to Twitter. Hot Trout is asking, as a longtime hodler of Stratis, what future developments are most likely to improve the Stratis proposition specifically for institutional money that, you know, everybody in the crypto sphere is hoping is going to enter the market in the next couple of years?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hot Trout is a longtime holder of Stratis. They're wondering specifically about the institutional money that really all of crypto. If you go on Twitter or Reddit or wherever, everybody's looking for institutional money to flood the market. What future developments would you expect would be most appealing to larger institutions on the Stratis network?
So we have two. The first being our ICO platform / STO platform that's going to allow people to do actual regulated offerings. So that's going to allow institutional money to come in. You know, it's not going to be a case of the old school ICO model where large financial institutions are not going to be pumping money into it. These are going to be regulated STOs as such to allow that institutional money to come in. And then the other side of the business is the DLT wing of Stratis, because we obviously have a DLT offering. Most of the use cases that we've seen, most of this demand that we've seen from large financial organizations is always around DLT. And this was one of the reasons why we even decided to develop the DLT solution.
Okay. Let's switch back over. Robert Alexis 171 wants to know the most important lessons that you've learned as a business in the last year.
That's a good question. That is a very good question. There's been so many lessons, so many lessons. I would say,
I feel like this is a job interview all of a sudden.
It's a really good question, that one. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a really good answer.
We can get back to it too.
Yeah, let's come back to it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So TK Mara wants to know if you could talk about some of the projects that are currently using or are planning to use the Azure Strat platform.
Yeah, so we have Gluon, who are doing fleet management, IoT, AI. So it's all about smart cars and using that the data from the car. So we have all of these cars driving around and they're collecting loads of data, but it's not being correlated. It's not really been used for anything. If you imagine a specific model of a car is constantly having the same fault, unless those cars are constantly being brought back into the manufacturer for service, they won't actually pick that up and see that as a fault. Whereas with the Gluon type connected car, they would actually be getting alerts for all of those issues happening on the car. And then once it hits a certain threshold, they'd say, okay, maybe we need to do a recall now because this looks like a prominent problem with the car, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's one of their use cases. The other project is MediConnect. They are looking to revolutionize the pharmaceutical industry in the UK. So currently in the UK, we have online pharmacies where you can get prescription medications from, but they don't share any information between them. So there's nothing stopping me from buying very strong painkillers from one pharmacy and then buying very strong painkillers from another pharmacy. There's just nothing in place to stop that. So, I mean, everyone can probably understand at this point now how the blockchain can solve that problem. And we can have a shared database that doesn't require any of the participants to trust each other. So when they prescribe medication to a patient, they write some information, that prescription to the blockchain. So when he goes to the second pharmacy and tries to get the second prescription, they can actually see that and it will be flagged up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I could talk about MediConnect all day and Gluon. There's so much going on. And then we've got some other projects, D-Stream being one of them. They're building out a whole gaming infrastructure, doing some really, really cool things. And what I really like about the projects that are building on the Stratis platform is they're really focused on the product. They're just focusing on getting that product out and actually pushing forward, and pretty much like Stratis. And these are the kinds of companies that we want to work with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Actually, I noticed that Gluon, I think announced today that their initial product release is going to be, coming out very, very soon.
Indeed.
Which is exciting stuff.
Yeah, without an ICO as well, you know?
Really?
Yeah, so they did a pre-ICO, but then they had to put it on hold because they're going through SEC registration.
Okay.
So they've managed to get the product out without doing a big ICO, which I really like. I like to see people taking not a small amount of money, but lesser resources and creating something from it, you know?
I think that's a little bit of validation that it's not necessarily about the money. It's not just a low-level cash grab, and they'll be in the Caymans in a couple of weeks.
Well, yeah, I mean, MediConnect's ICO will start very soon. And just the fact that they're doing an ICO during the bear market, for me, shows a lot, you know?
Sure. I love this next question. So it's very technical. It's very, very dense here.
I'm trying my best to answer it.
All right, you ready? Real Yermia Fox wants to know, if Stratis was a cheese, what kind of cheese would it be?
Do you know, I saw this question earlier on, and this was the only question that I struggled on.
Well, there's so many cheeses to choose from.
Yeah. I don't want to say one that smells. That is a very, very good question. I'd say mozzarella.
Mozzarella?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because it's a little bit different. It's not like your regular cheddar cheese, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Slightly different colored to the normal cheese.
It stands out.
Yeah, most definitely. And I feel Stratis definitely does. Definitely in terms of what we've done with the funds that were raised. Because I mean, I can't tell you the exact number off the top of my head, but I think in total so far we've spent like 4 million plus, you know? So to raise 600,000 and have spend after 3 years of 4 million and still be around and still have enough runway for 3 years is pretty significant, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's 3 years at the current Strat price as well.
Really? You guys have enough runway for 3 years? Yeah. 3 years.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, next up, Chris Wolfrey is wondering, so Cirrus was just announced, the new side chain recently. How are the Cirrus CRS tokens going to be used exactly? So what is their utility? Can individuals and parties leverage the power of the first Strat sidechain? They know, the tokens are going to be one-to-one pegged with Strat tokens, but basically just what are the use cases?
So the first use case is going to be for the execution of smart contracts. The whole reason why we've rolled out the Cirrus blockchain is to deploy our smart contract infrastructure. So all smart contracts that execute on the Stratis platform will always be executed on Cirrus, and that requires Cirrus tokens in order to execute them. And those fees for execution go back to the masternodes.
Okay.
And there will be additional functionality rolled out on Cirrus in future. We have an ERC20 equivalent smart contract, so people will be able to create tokens on the Cirrus chain as well.
Awesome. Listen up, everybody. So we're going to pretty soon pivot and announce the winners of the Stratis giveaway. We're going to do some more questions, but definitely stay tuned because that is coming up. Sober Unicorn wants to know, how does Stratis view the future of STOs? So with the stock market currently valued in the tens of trillions, obviously this is a huge sector for disruption. What do you see the future of tokenized securities looking like, and how might Stratis play a role there?
Yeah, I think we've already seen a huge shift from the ICOs of 2017, 2018 to this whole STO. I think it's only going to get bigger over the next couple of years. And I think that regulators have really found sort of a comfortable place, you know, that they can get to with these STOs, in that they can allow people to do to raise funds in cryptocurrencies, but also have the minimum amount of regulation to ensure that responsible investors are investing in these projects. Because I mean, like in the US with the SEC and the whole thing around having to be an approved investor, it's actually there to protect people. I know that it's a burden for a lot of people, but it also protects a lot of people, you know. And there's been a huge amount of people that have lost money from ICOs in 2017, 2018. The stats of the projects that are no longer here anymore that did ICOs in that time is just ridiculous, you know. So I think that it can only be a good thing, you know.
Yeah, and I would imagine too that the concept of a security token is way more comfortable and more within the wheelhouse of the SEC than some of these more experimental ways of tokenizing either a product or a vote, or name an example.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Let's jump back over to the Cryptocopia Discord. Hugh, HIEU 123, is asking what the strategy is looking like for you guys to go after Unity game developers. What will be available in the SDK for Unity devs?
For those that don't know, Unity is a game development framework. It's developed in C# and Microsoft.NET, like the Stratis Platform. It has a huge share of the games market. Last time I checked, it was like 50% of all games out there are developed in Unity. So it just makes sense for us to build out an SDK so Unity developers can actually access the platform. So our Unity SDK will have access to all of the various functions of the blockchain. So it will be able to interrogate blocks, transactions, check balances of addresses. It will also be able to access smart contracts and have some pre-existing interfaces for things like ERC20 support. So if, for instance, you've created a game and you want to have assets inside that game, whether those are weapons or whatever, you can create a token on the Cirrus sidechain and actually interact with that with your Unity SDK. Okay,
super cool. Last question from Cryptocopia. We're going to switch it back to Twitter and then pivot a little bit from there. Crime Joker wants to know if you have any plans for a Stratis blockchain conference, specifically if it's going to be in New York or Philly. But if that is something planned anytime soon.
We definitely do. At this time, I don't feel that there's enough projects building out on the Stratis platform for us to have a conference just solely around Stratis. But one of the things that I can tell you about now is we're planning on having what we're calling the Stratis World live stream. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hosting a live stream with the projects building on top of the Stratis platform. So your MediConnect, Gluon, DStream, and all those guys, and it will give them an opportunity to inform the Stratis community of what they're currently working on, what they've got coming up, any cool things that they want everyone to know. So it basically gives all of the projects built on our platform a platform to communicate with the community, you know. So certainly Stratis World live stream is going to be the first type of Stratis event, but definitely in future we want to be having Stratis conferences with all of the projects building on top of the platform. And we foresee in the next couple of years, probably in the next year by sort of April, London Blockchain Expo next year, we hope to be able to have our own quite large event.
Okay. That's an exciting idea, by the way, the public facing, community facing live stream with more than just one project, sort of a collaborative kind of environment. Let's get one more from Twitter. ESGT Crypto is asking, so in recent times, blockchain and crypto projects have been a new source of employment for, blockchain specialists on one hand, crypto enthusiasts on the other. Does Stratis have any plans to recruit more ad hoc or, main staff in order to encourage employment within the blockchain community?
Yeah, definitely. We're hiring all the time. We've got several vacancies open now. I'd say the main vacancy that we have open now is for a head of marketing. We're looking to bring someone in who can just spearhead our marketing and implement our strategy. Well, help us develop our strategy and then actually implement said strategy. So, yeah, certainly we're always growing as a company and we're always hiring new people. What I will say is that it's very difficult to find blockchain developers that actually know anything at the low level. We probably have, I won't put a number on it, but we have a lot of interviews where somebody's CV looks amazing, but when they've come in and we've actually interviewed them and we've digged into their experience, all they've ever done was write a smart contract, If you ask them about the low-level architecture of a decentralized network, peer-to-peer communications, they don't have any idea. So it is very hard to find knowledgeable blockchain developers. And what we've been doing for the last year is just looking for what we consider to be the best C# developers, the most intelligent guys, the guys that are going to finish work at 6 p.m., go home and carry on reading, that just have this desire to learn like I do. And it's worked out really well for us. We're seeing guys sort of 3 months and they're up and running. They're writing low-level parts of the Stratis code base,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I guess stay tuned, everybody. So I'm sure they can find some links to job openings on the website. But shout out to any low-level developers in particular. Listen, that's the last of our questions. So before we actually finish out the AMA, Chris is going to announce the 10 winners of the Stratis giveaway. If you're not aware of what's going on there, the Stratis team tweeted out on Monday that anybody who asked a question for the AMA on Twitter, Cryptocopia, they were going to be randomly selecting 10 winners for 100 Strat tokens each. So Chris, if you're all ready, the floor is yours.
Can I just say I didn't pick these winners? So I'll start with the Cryptocopia winners. Okay, first we have Yellow Sin. Congratulations, Yellow Sin. Secondly, we have Steen. Congratulations. Third, Bill Ryan. I'm happy to see that name there. Congratulations. Next is Perat. I hope I'm spelling that correctly. Congratulations. And lastly is Weeping Guitars. Very nice name. Congratulations. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the Twitter winners. We have Vardhan BTC. Congratulations. We have Sheldazor. I hope that's correct. Sheldazor. Congratulations. Fats Eat. Congratulations. Hunt for Coins. Congratulations. And Crugintera. Congratulations. And that's it.
I love it. Guys, great job. Congrats to all the winners. I believe that the Stratis team will be reaching out. I'm not sure if that will be via a tweet or, we have your handles and we have your names on Discord. And so, the Stratis team will be able to see those, but that'll be logistically, figured out pretty soon. But again, congratulations to the winners. Thank you all for watching. And Chris, we really appreciate you joining and chatting with us.
No, thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
So have we. Well, listen, we can follow along with Stratis's development on your blog, on Twitter. But Chris, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you might want people to know about?
No, one thing that I would like to say is just a big thank you to our community for supporting us and sticking with us for all of this time. I know it's been a long journey getting to here, but we're very, very close to being exactly where we need to be, and a lot of it is thanks to you guys. So thank you very much.
All right, great. Well, listen, everybody, don't forget to show Cryptocopia some love by hitting the subscribe button, the notification bell on YouTube below this video to watch some more of our AMAs. We do these weekly AMAs literally every week, and we've really been hitting the ground running in the past 5 or 6 weeks. So tomorrow we're actually going to announce our guest for next week on Twitter. So make sure to follow at @crypto_copia to see who is up on deck. And you can also join as a member of our Discord if you click the link on the bottom of this video in the video description. Chris, thank you one last time. It's been a pleasure. Everybody, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Transformers, you know we are the robots. T1000 China number 5. We are the robots.